Hey guys, Jeremy Wallace here, Microsoft Certified Solutions Architect and Senior Cloud Infrastructure Engineer for Safari Micro. Today we're talking about Copilot for Microsoft 365. If you haven't checked out my previous video, in which I did a live demo to see Copilot's integration across the Microsoft 365 app suite, you're going to want to check it out. It is pretty neat to see. Today we're going to be talking about the difference between Copilot, and that is formerly Bing Chat Enterprise, and Microsoft 365 Chat. With that said, I'm going to show my screen here, and you can see on one side I have Copilot, your everyday AI companion with Bing. Again, that was formerly Bing Chat and Bing Chat Enterprise. And then on the other side here, Microsoft 365 Chat, which is the AI chat that comes with Copilot for Microsoft 365. So let's focus first on Copilot, and that's going to build into our talking about differences on the Microsoft 365 chat side. So let's pull that up. Again, right now, I'm not signed into any account. If you go to copilot.microsoft.com, you can play with this yourself and get a feel for what it can and can't do. It's giving me some prompts right up here to give me an idea of some of its capabilities. But again, this is a free version. You do not even have to be signed into a Microsoft account to do some initial interactions with it. But it will warn you down here at the bottom, sign in to ask more questions and have longer conversations. So if you want more capabilities, you got to sign in with a Microsoft account. That can be a personal account. If I hit that up here, I'm going to see sign in with a personal account. But then you're going to get even more benefits, especially on the security aspect, when you sign in with your work or school account and it's licensed with the proper Microsoft 365 licensing. And so I'm going to talk about that in just a moment. So again, I can have a conversation with it right now. You're going to see there's a conversation style that's down here in this bar. Creative it's going to give me a lot more warm conversational style, as if I'm talking with a human being. It's gonna be playful. It's going to be a response. Going to use emojis, so I can ask it, "Hey, how are you doing?" And the response that I'm going to get is, "Hey, hello, this is Bing. I'm doing well. Thank you for asking." And then it's going to give me a bit of a story for it, some examples I can do. It's going to ask me, "Hey, what would you like to do today?" Now, if we compared that with the more precise style, and I said, "Hey, how are you doing?" And we'll give it a sec to give me a response here. It says, "Hello, this is Bing. I'm an AI and I don't have feelings, but I'm here to help you." So the precision style gives me straight to the point. And then, of course, balance is a mix in between, having a little bit of that warm conversational style while still just kind of getting to the point. So those are the conversation styles. And so that's going to determine the type of outputs that you get from Copilot when you're asking it questions. I'm going to sign in. Again, there's going to be limited interaction when I don't have any account at all. And if I were to sign in with a personal Microsoft account, it would get me a little more past the limitations. But I'm really going to focus on showing what was Bing Chat Enterprise, and that is if you have the Microsoft 365 licensing. And that licensing here, I'm just going to sign in with my demo here. This particular account is licensed with a Microsoft 365 E3 account. But you can use E3, E5, or F5. Again, that's the Microsoft 365 SKU. And then Business Standard, Business Premium, A3, or A5 if you're in the educational space. So already, if I sign in, licensed with one of those licenses I just mentioned, you're going to get this protected notification up in the right-hand corner, and it's going to say that your personal and company data are protected in this chat. So that is the big feature of having it paid, is that your organization, if you have one of those licenses, can use Copilot. Again, that's Bing Chat Enterprise. You can use Copilot and have interactions without it using any of that information to train a language model. The conversation between your users and the Copilot is going to be encrypted. It's not going to remember any of those conversations. There is no conversational history, and I can kind of demonstrate that right here. If I bring up a prompt, I'm going to ask it a question: "What color shirt am I wearing?" So obviously it can't see me. So I'm sorry, I don't have access to your camera or any other sensors on your device. Therefore, I can't determine what color your shirt is. So now I'm going to do that again, but I'm going to feed it some information. This is the art of working with AI, is prompt engineering. So being able to provide it information and context so that it can best answer your questions. So I pasted in here. Please use the following information in this chat to correctly respond to me in future posts. My name is Jeremy Wallace, and I'm wearing a blue shirt. I am wearing bright green shoes and purple sunglasses. So I'm providing that information. Let's see what Copilot responds. Thank you for sharing your name and attire details with me, Jeremy. I will keep that in mind for future conversations. Is there anything I can help you with today? So now if I ask, what color shirt am I wearing? It can take the information that I provided. It says you are wearing a blue shirt. You also have bright green shoes and purple sunglasses. Is there anything else I can help you with today? So I was able to train it in my session. It was able to go off of the large language models, the LLM, what gives it its power as an AI to determine, hey, this is the user context. This is how you talk about. This is what he's referencing. This is how it's able to talk to me in real language rather than just being a search engine. And then I was able to train it in the conversation, provide it context. Um, so I'm not training the large language models, but I'm training this particular chat session and provide it context. And the context that I gave it is I gave it my name and what I was wearing. And now if I ask it something, it can answer that question through the context that I provided. And now it was able to provide me with the answer, you are wearing a blue shirt. If I were to exit this, if I hit new topic or if I close out and reopen this and I were to ask it that same question, what color shirt am I wearing? It's not going to remember my previous answers. It says, I'm sorry, I don't have access to your camera or sensors. So it is not trained permanently by the information that you provided. The information that you give it is only pertinent to that particular chat session. So all your personal or company information that you give it in a chat session is protected. It's protected from even future sessions, and it's definitely not being used by Microsoft. Microsoft has no purview into any of that information that you provide the chat, and that it's not going back to train some other language model or AI. And again, Copilot works off of Azure OpenAI, so it doesn't even go to the same LLM repository or solution that other AIs platforms use. It's protected within its own Microsoft Azure. But again, this information is not even training that platform. It is all protected. So that is the main benefit of having Microsoft 365 licensing. And again, this comes with E3, E5, F5, Business Standard, Business Premium, A3 or A5 on the educational side. So a lot of organizations already have this with their existing licensing. So you can get started on working with AI right now, if you have one of those licenses, again, and technically right now, even if you don't, but you're not going to get that protected benefits. But if you're an organization, you want to get your users in on starting to interact with AI, feel free to use Copilot to have those interactions, because again, none of that information is training anything, and it's not accessing any of your company's information when they interact with the chat. And that is going to be the number one difference between the Microsoft 365 chat and Copilot, formerly being Chat Enterprise. So Copilot is not connected to any of your Microsoft 365 data. It can't pull up stuff in SharePoint. It can't access your emails. None of that stuff. It is simply a protected chat that allows your users to interact with AI, with Microsoft's Copilot AI, in a protected scenario where any information they provide is not being saved or going anywhere, and they're not accessing any information from the company or accidentally getting into something that they shouldn't. So definitely a safe place for them to interact. If you want them to start working daily interacting with some type of AI to help them with their work, coming up with ideas. Say you need to come up with some ideas for a report, or an article you're writing, or a PowerShell script. You can do that with Copilot, and not really have to worry about that information going somewhere, or that pulling information that's sensitive to your organization. Now, if we look at Microsoft 365 chat, this is connected to Microsoft 365. It's connected to your graph, which has its hands in all of the data that's in your Microsoft 365 tenant. So your SharePoint side, your email side, your Teams side, OneDrive, all of that is integrated with the Microsoft Graph, which is integrated with Microsoft 365 Chat Copilot for Microsoft 365. So now, remember when I was providing Copilot with my user context, I was saying, hey, this is what I'm wearing, this is what my name is. Well, since Microsoft 365 Chat has access to information about your organization and the data that's contained within your Microsoft 365 tenant, now it already has context for things that you're going to be asking it. So that's going to be the huge benefit to talking with Microsoft 365 Chat, is the fact that when you ask it about a meeting that you're having coming up in Teams, it has access to that information. It understands the context. It understands you're signed in with this user account. This is who you are. This is your the title listed on you and intra ID. This is your meetings, your emails. This is your context that you have. This is where you are organizationally within your organization. It has all of that as part of a context, and we'll talk about the inner workings of how Copilot for Microsoft 365 works later in another video, and we'll go through all the proper terms and how it's formulating all of this. But just from a big overview idea, it has access to all of that stuff, and it sees anything that you ask it in light of that information that it has. So if I go in here and I want to ask it about a person, what's the latest? I'll just use this prompt that it provides me here. What's the latest from this particular person? So I'm going to say, what's the latest from Megan? I can see I have access to them in my address book on Microsoft 365. So I can ask, hey, what's the latest from this person? What's the communication that I had? Can you get me up to speed to my conversations that I've been having with Megan? And it says, hey, last Friday, Megan sent you this email, and this is the things that Megan's been working on. If you see my live demo video, I use the same example there, just because I know Megan has information that I can interact with in this demo environment. If I were to ask the same thing, I'll just copy this word for word to Copilot on this side. Let's do new chat here. What's the latest from Megan Bowen, organized by emails, chats, and files? I'm sorry, but I'm not authorized to access Megan Bowen's personal information. However, I can suggest that you use Microsoft Graph API to retrieve information. So it doesn't have its hands or capability to do any of that. It doesn't have its hands in Graph to be able to provide you the same information that Microsoft 365 Chat is. So this is Microsoft 365 Chat is where you're going to have to start worrying about security aspects of your organization, because the fact that Copilot can interact with files, it knows emails, it knows people, and it was able to tell me about this presentation that Megan Bowen's been working on, because I have access to this information. It gives me a link so that I can actually get directly to that, because it thinks that it's something that might be pertinent to me since I have access to it. And so, like I said in my live demo video, if you watch that, what if that was a sensitive document and it was accidentally saved in a location that was open to other people, such as this user account that I'm on right now? Then all of a sudden, Copilot has helped me gain entrance into sensitive information that I may not have necessarily been aware of if I hadn't been using something like Copilot, and it wouldn't have brought it up, because maybe it would have been saved in a location that I've never been to that SharePoint site. So I wouldn't have never thought to look there. But now Copilot has been like, hey, here you go. Here's this thing. And so you're going to want to make sure that your permissions structure in Microsoft 365, that your security is locked down good, so that you're not dealing with security breaches within your own organization, not because of anything malicious that the end user was doing, but simply because Copilot was trying to be helpful and grab them information that they thought would be helpful to the user. And now the user was like, oh, Copilot thought this was handy for me. And then they take a look at that sensitive information. And so you're going to need to make sure that you have security labels on sensitive information. If you have PII in your organization, that shouldn't be in certain places. You're going to want to make sure that it's all structured well, and you're going to want to do an audit of that. Because when you release Copilot for Microsoft 365, and people can use M365 chat to pull up this stuff, you're giving them essentially the keys to the kingdom if you don't have all that stuff locked down. So what are some of the capabilities that Microsoft 365 chat can do besides that? Again, in my live demo, I use that same option there. Well, you can pull up this prompt to give you ideas. There's a handy prompt book on all of the Microsoft 365 apps that have Copilot integrated in. So it can give you some ideas. You can look at that categories here. So things that I can ask if I want to catch up on something. So, what I use that, what's new with that person, or get a key points from a particular file, summarize Teams messages from this week, provide a summary of my most recent emails about reports. I'll see if I have any. I'm not sure if this test account has anything that's labeled reports, but we'll see. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I don't have anything in there, but that gives you an idea of some of the things you can interact with. And just like with Copilot, they can ask creative stuff in here. Give me 10 ideas for a LinkedIn article on Copilot for Microsoft 365. And so you can just ask it. It doesn't have to be things particularly about your organization. You can just interact with it as a Copilot AI to ask it for help with ideas. And it's going to return those results. What are some other differences between M365 Chat and Copilot? Well, one of it is going to be a neat feature that's in Copilot. Is the ability to generate images. So if I want to say, generate me an image of that represents Copilot for Microsoft 365, I'm asking it to be creative and just come up with something for me. So now you can see it's actually generating an image. But if I were to ask that same thing, and I'll stick this over on one side and stick M365 chat on the other side. If I were to ask the same thing of the M365 chat, it says it's not capable of generating images. So there is going to be some feature function difference between the Copilot, between Copilot and M365 chat. So you can use Copilot to generate those images from the image creator. These are original image generation that it does. So it didn't find these somewhere else on the internet. It used this, it created this through Image Creator from Designer, powered by DALL-E. So these don't exist anywhere else on the internet. It made it specifically per my prompt, and so these are things that that now I can use for other stuff. You can see that often when you generate something with words in it, there's going to be spelling errors if it tries to use that, but often it will try to use some type of wording from your prompt in there. But you can see most of the time when it does generate images, if we were able to look at the text or anything else, riddle spelling errors or stuff that looks like text, but is actually, if you look closer, is just kind of jarbled lines and things like that. So that's something that Copilot can do that M365 cannot do on the AI side. So if you want to do image generation, you do that on Copilot side. If you want to interact with your Microsoft 365 data files, email chats, etc., then that's something you do on the M365 side. Another difference here is M365 chat is not what is integrated in with Edge or with Windows 11. If you have that little Copilot icon that shows up on next to your search in Windows 11, um, that is Copilot, not M365 chat. So you see this in my Edge browser here. If I clicked on that's the same Copilot prompt that I have here, and I can just have a conversation. So I could be browsing websites, I can be on Google or anywhere that I want, and I can pull this up and have a conversation with Copilot no matter what I'm doing. And then I can switch that into full screen mode. There. So now it has the ability to control my browser session for me. So it has its hands in things like the browser. If you have it integrated into your Windows 11, you can tell it to enable dark mode. You can change certain Windows settings. That's Copilot. So again, that's separate from M365 chat. M365 chat, the Copilot for Microsoft 365 is strictly for the Microsoft 365 data sets and their applications that are with M365. So you're going to see unified branding across it. It's all Copilot something, but they are separate products that control separate things. So you're going to need to know where to go for each of those functionalities. Again, the number one value I see in Copilot for organizations is to start getting their feet wet with AI, to have users start getting in there, interacting, and see how they can use AI to elevate their work, to make things more efficient, to help them get past writer's block, to help them come up with scripting that they need, to help them calculate and analyze data that they need to. Take everything with a grain of salt that you get back from Copilot. You're going to need to check accuracy, because there are such things as it'll provide you information that it sounds like it's pretty confident is correct, but may not necessarily exist. And I can address that in future videos, but sometimes like I've asked it to help me come up with some PowerShell script, only to realize that one of the commandlets it used in that script doesn't actually exist. And then if I ask it about it, or if I tell it, I'm like, hey, this does actually exist. And I'm like, oh, you're right, it doesn't. And then it tries to provide me another method of doing it. So you do have to do some fact checking when you work with Copilot, especially if it's information that is on the internet and not necessarily more common sense type stuff. It's going to pull from those sources, or it's going to think like this is relatively how you do it, and then come up with something that looks like that, but not necessarily is the correct way to do that. So there are some pitfalls with using AI. So always train users to be cognizant of the information that it has. Other horror stories that I've heard out there are people using it to draft legal documents, and they take it verbatim and they copy and paste it into legal document. They send it off, and maybe it's not 100% accurate there, the terminology that used, and so it's not really a great legal document. AI can always help you get 85-90% of the way if you prompt it good, if you provide it good context and information to be able to help you get exactly what you're looking for. You can get most of the way with it, but there's always going to be some amount of tweaking usually that you need to do to its output in order to use it. On the M365 chat side, you can be pretty confident that the information that it's giving you is accurate when it comes to data in your own organization, because that is actual data that since there's exist. It knows the context. It knows it should be answering you from that data. So you can, with 95% confidence, trust the information that you're getting regarding your own data. I would say it typically, when it comes to stuff that's outside of your tenant, that it returns, similarly to what I mentioned on the Copilot side, is when you're going to start running into more of a chance of hitting inaccurate data that comes in through that chat. So always train your users, and that's why they have this little disclaimer: AI generated content may be incorrect. And they provide mechanisms for allowing you to help identify whether you like that output or not. So if you do get incorrect information, make sure that you're giving that feedback to help train it so that it knows, oh hey, this is not how I should have answered it. Either the information's incorrect, or it was not formatted in the right way. Whatever that feedback is, when you hit that button, it's going to pop up with a window, and you're going to be able to see. In fact, if I hit it right here, submit feedback to Microsoft, and you're going to be able to tell it what went wrong with that in particular. So I'm going to leave it at that. We're going to dive more into prompt engineering and other stuff that'll help you in dealing with these AI chats, both Copilot and Microsoft 365 chat and Copilot for Microsoft 365. Both are going to be very handy tools for your organizations. And again, both of them give different functionality for you. And so again, suggest that if you want a starting point for your users, Copilot is definitely the way to go before you dive into the M365 chat and the Copilot for Microsoft 365 integration. Again, I'm Jeremy Wallace. Do follow me on LinkedIn. You can see that information down in the description, as well as subscribe to the Sarvahari Micros channel. We're producing more and more videos on Copilot for Microsoft 365 and Copilot and the whole Microsoft AI world. So stay tuned for all of that information.